Why doing nothing feels wrong. Like you sit down for a second, not to scroll, not to sleep, just to exist. And almost immediately, your brain taps you on the shoulder. You should be doing something, not loudly, not aggressively, just enough to make resting feel illegal. You check the time, you replay your to do list, you suddenly remember something random you should have done earlier, and now doing nothing feels wrong. Not boring, wrong. Here's the strange part: nobody actually told you to feel guilty, yet the guilt shows up anyway. Let's rewind. Picture this: it's late afternoon. You've already done a few things today, not everything, but enough. You finally sit down, and instead of relief, you feel tension. Your body is still, but your mind is restless. You're not tired. You're uneasy because somewhere along the way, rest stopped meaning recovery and started meaning failure. That's not laziness, that's conditioning. We live in a world where movement is praised more than direction. If you're busy, you're responsible. If you're tired, you're trying. If you're resting, you're suspicious. So even when you stop moving, your brain keeps working overtime. It scans for justification. Did I earn this break? Am I allowed to relax yet? What if someone saw me right now? That last one matters. Even when you're alone, you feel watched. Not by people in the room, by an invisible standard you've internalized. That's why rest doesn't feel neutral. It feels exposed. Here's a guilt trap you might recognize. You open your phone just for a minute, not because you want to, but because scrolling feels more acceptable than staring at the wall. Scrolling looks like activity, rest looks like nothing, and nothing feels dangerous. Another scene. You finish work early one day. Instead of feeling lucky, you feel uncomfortable. You start inventing tasks, cleaning things that aren't dirty, checking emails that don't matter, reopening tabs you already closed. Not because the work is important, because stopping feels irresponsible. You don't trust stillness anymore, and that didn't come from nowhere. At some point, you learn this rule: if you're not producing, you're wasting time. But your brain didn't stop there, it upgraded the rule. If you're not producing, you're falling behind. So now rest doesn't just feel unproductive, it feels risky. Like everyone else is moving forward while you're standing still, even when that's not true. Here's what no one says out loud: rest feels wrong because it has no visible outcome. There's nothing to show for it, no proof, no metric. You can't point to rest and say, look, I improved. So your brain panics. It prefers exhaustion with evidence over calm without validation. That's why doing nothing makes you anxious. Not because nothing is happening, but because nothing is being measured. Another guilt trap. You take a break, but instead of actually resting, you spend the whole time thinking about what you'll do next. You're technically resting. Mentally, you're still working, because fully resting would require letting go of control. And control feels safer than peace. This is where people get confused. They think they hate rest. They don't. They hate the silence that comes with it. Silence removes distractions, and without distractions, you're left alone with questions you've been avoiding. Am I doing enough? Am I on the right path? What if I slow down and realize I don't know what I'm doing? So staying busy becomes a coping mechanism, not for productivity, for uncertainty. Doing nothing forces honesty, and honesty can be uncomfortable. Here's the truth most people miss. Your guilt isn't telling you to work harder. It's telling you you've tied your worth to motion. Somewhere along the way, rest stopped being something you do and became something you have to justify. That's why even self-care feels like a task now. Optimized, scheduled, performed. If rest doesn't look productive, it doesn't feel allowed. But real rest was never meant to look impressive. It was meant to feel boring, quiet, unremarkable. That's how your nervous system resets. Not through stimulation, through absence. And here's the uncomfortable reframe. If doing nothing feels wrong, it's not because you're lazy. It's because you've been taught that your value depends on output. So your brain keeps asking, what's the point of this moment? When sometimes the point is that nothing is required. You don't need to earn rest the same way you don't earn breathing. Rest isn't a reward, it's maintenance. And the more you delay it, the louder the guilt gets. Because exhaustion doesn't make you productive, it just makes you easier to control. So the next time you sit down and that familiar unease shows up, pause. Ask yourself one question: am I resting, or am I just avoiding the feeling of not being useful? That answer tells you everything. If this felt a little too accurate, like the video and subscribe. I'll see you next time.